What comes to mind when I say missionary? Is it perhaps an elder or sister that you personally know that is serving right now or has served? Or maybe the missionaries that are assigned to your area? Now, what comes to your mind when I say member missionary work? Perhaps it brings to mind a sweet memory of you sharing the gospel with a friend. Well, if you're like me, it also brings to mind my lack of sharing the gospel with others. How many of us have been asked by the missionaries if we knew anyone that they could teach, or if they knew anyone that would like to hear the message of the restoration? And how many times have we said no and felt kind of guilty? Why is that, and what can we do about it? In Elder Oaks, Down H. Oaks talk, Sharing the Restored Gospel, he said this about member missionary work. What can I say that will be helpful in you sharing the gospel? Whatever your circumstances, we need the help of every member, and every member can help. Since there are many tasks performed as we share the restored gospel with every nation, kindred, tongue, and people, we all know that member participation in missionary work is vital to achieving both conversion and retention. We all must participate in sharing the gospel. But how can we achieve this? Today, I'll share with you the real-world examples that show why it's hard to share the gospel, and how you and I can overcome them and be successful in participating in the blessing of sharing the gospel with all others. I will focus on member missionary work, what it is, and on two different reasons why sharing the gospel is hard. I will also provide two practical ways on how to share the gospel and the blessings that come with it. I will first offer examples of what missionary work is, and I will discuss areas that make sharing the gospel daunting and provide the solutions later. One reason on the excuse from members that I would hear most often when I was serving my own mission was, I don't have time for missionary work. The second was, I don't know anyone that's not already a member. With these responses, there's often underlying fear, a legitimate fear of sharing the gospel. I'm a convert to the church. I was baptized when I was 18 years old, and I've been blessed in many ways for making that decision. But would not have happened if it was just the elders and the sisters doing missionary work. It was because of a friend that I made in high school who got to know me and showed that they cared for me. She also attended seminary every day. I noticed this and I asked why that she left school every day to go to church. Instead of shying away and giving a basic answer, she told me about seminary. I told her I liked the concept of learning about Jesus during school hours. She could have just simply responded with, yeah, it's cool, and left it at that. But she was prepared for an opportunity like this to share the gospel. And she said that she could bring by some material from the church for me to read. I agreed in thinking, what harm could it be to read some material from a different church? Well, no harm came from it. In fact, it changed and blessed my life forever. Brittany is a shining example of what it means to be a member missionary. Member missionary work is just not referrals. The only thing you thought of being part of missionary work was giving referrals to the missionaries. You may miss out on many different aspects of missionary work. Referrals are an amazing blessing to the work, but it can't be the only way that we participate in missionary work. Missionary work is so much more, and there are many different ways that you can help the missionaries, but help Heavenly Father in fulfilling His work as well. Moses 139 in the Pearl of Great Price reads, "For behold, this is my work, my glory, to bring to pass the immortality and eternal life of man." As someone who's had the opportunity to serve a full-time mission, I know the true value of members who are willing to help out in any way possible. So what can we do to help? We can ask the missionaries if we can be a host home for a person or a family they are currently teaching, or help fellowship those they are teaching by sitting with them at church. These small acts will not only help them in fellowship before baptism, but also fellowship members after the baptism and conversion, which is just as important. This will help them receive the greater blessings that come from the temple endowment and lead to eternal salvation. I had the pleasure of serving in elders' quorum where the missionaries were teaching a man who they had found by tracting, and he had been attending for at least a few months. I asked the missionaries if they were still teaching him, and they said yes. I asked if I could join the next lesson, and I did. It was during that lesson that he and his son committed to baptism, and he asked me if I'd baptize him and his son. That was a testimony building experience for me, and taught me that anyone can help in this great work. And it also made a difference that I was a member and just not the missionaries to help him make that decision for baptism. And the great thing is, it doesn't take up that much time. When people say I'm too busy for missionary work, this hurdle in the way of doing missionary work is a common one. Many feel that their lives are just too busy to fit one more thing into it. As conference talk of regrets and resolutions, Elder Dieter F. Uchtdorf said about being too busy. Isn't it true that we often get too busy, and sad to say, we even wear our busyness as a badge of honor, as though being busy by in itself was an accomplishment or a sign of a superior life? Some of us may be spending too much time on our cell phones. The chief executive of Apple, Tim Cook, feels the same way. He expressed it this way: I think it's become clear to all of us that some of us are spending too much time on our devices. We've tried to think through pretty deeply about how we can help that. Honestly, we never wanted people to overuse our products. I want you to think about your daily routine and your daily habits. Can you think of 45 minutes in your week that you could dedicate to missionary work? That's plenty of time to go with the missionaries to an appointment, to have your home be used to teach a lesson to an investigator, or to make a phone call or post on someone's social media account. You can even role play as a family during family home evening, different ways to share the gospel with others, so they'll be prepared when opportunities do arise in the real world. If every member dedicated time to do this with the missionaries, they would be overwhelmed in a good way and would be able to increase conversion to the church and help reactivate returning members and better fellowship part-member families. I don't know anyone. For many, it is true. We don't interact with people outside of our own family, friends, and coworkers. Preach My Gospel, the Mission Handbook, provides ways that encourage members to be more involved with missionary work. One of the ways is to help members know what they might say on social media that can lead to conversion about the gospel. Sharing the gospel through social media is a perfect way to use the many resources available to share with your friends with others. Most of us have friends on social media, our social media accounts, that are non-members or less active at this time. The fear of sharing the gospel. To just about everyone has ever tried sharing the gospel with others, the fear of rejection is real, and it can be overwhelming. Nora Roberts said, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. If we keep in mind the value of the gospel, that it can enhance even the most successful and happy person, we'll be able to conquer this fear. Any effort you give in sharing the gospel with others, even strangers you encounter at the store, it will lead to success when you try, even if it's just a seed planted. Elder David A. Bednar explained it like this: those who faithfully, diligently, and consistently do simple things that are right before God will bring forth extraordinary results. I know this to be true because somebody shared the gospel with me and has blessed my life forever. And this is why we do member missionary work. I am a convert to the church and would not be a member if it were not for my brave and faithful friend Brittany. Every happiness and blessing in my life is because I'm a member of the church. After I joined the church, my mom and all my brothers and sisters joined the church. That is 4 brothers and 2 sisters. I was able to perform the baptism and temple endowment for my father, who had passed away. I had the blessing of being sealed for time and all eternity to my family. I received the blessing in meeting my best friend and eternal companion, Dania. We have been blessed with 4 children, with 2 girls here on earth, Amelia, who is 6, and Charlie, who is 4, and 2 angel boys, Ash and Samuel. Even though they're separated on earth, we will not be separated for all eternity. I wouldn't have been nearly as blessed or happy without the gospel, and I have the gospel because of member missionary work. Everything I mentioned, I was made possible by someone who was willing to simply ask if I wanted to know more about our church. It really is that simple. The results can be that extraordinary, and I encourage everyone here to become more involved in missionary work now. You can simply be willing to help the missionaries teach and fellowship. You must be brave and share the gospel either online or in person. I promise you that by doing these things, you will see miracles and you'll help change lives, and not just in this life, but for all eternity.